This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, and Brewers Outlet. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
The opening half hour brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Ford, Kia, Hyundai, the best in new inventory. Great pre-owned inventory with the Sunbury Motors guarantee. And a terrific service department that backs it up every step of the way, whether it's quick lane inspections, routine, difficult, they handle it all. At Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury, Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. We welcome in the great man himself, and that is Dick Jerardi. My good friend, welcome back. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, Steve. I'm heading to Sunbury Motors right now. I'm on my way.
No surprise whatsoever by this veteran campaigner. All right, so.
A great ad for no doubt a great spot, and I'll be by shortly. So just get the cars ready.
Yeah, all set. They're rolling them out as we speak. So, Dick, 16 are left, and there are a lot of big names left. You and I both know Cinderella's fun, but only has a shelf life. Okay. Yeah. The Big Ten is in an interesting spot. They get 4 in, but they've got 3 playing ones in the Sweet 16. Your thoughts on that?
No doubt, Steve. Look, this isn't a novel concept by me here, but as we're watching it play out over the first 2 rounds, and we need, I guess, more data. We need a couple more years to be sure about it, but the reality is the mid-majors of the world are just in bigger trouble than they've ever been before because most of their better players are now playing for the high majors.
That's right.
And when your only double-digit seed is Arkansas, not exactly a Cinderella, right? A lot has changed about the tournament, and there's no longer the great mid-major team with 5 seniors who have played 120 games together. Those teams, unfortunately, just don't exist. And I think it makes for a lesser tournament. It just wasn't that much fun. Certainly the first round wasn't much fun, right? There just wasn't a lot of competition. And the second round was certainly better. And, look, the Big Ten, it's nice to have 4 teams, but let's deal in reality here. Pretty fortunate, right? Caught the Southland, McNeese State in one of the games in the Mountain West in New Mexico and Colorado State in 2 of the other ones. So it helps to get those kind of matchups in the second round. And having said that, very fortunate, obviously, for Maryland. It was kind of a miracle. I thought they were outplayed and outcoached, and Derek Queen just made an insane shot at the end of the game, which they'll remember at College Park forever, and as they watch him make his millions next year in the NBA.
Right. Well, you're looking at 3 Florida Atlantic players still alive. You're looking at Toppin going from New Mexico over to Texas Tech still alive. I mean, it goes to your point that that's what we're seeing. They proved themselves someplace else, and the bigger guys won them.
Yeah, it was interesting. I don't know how many players from Belmont are still playing, but I know the point guard from Maryland is from Belmont, and I kept hearing their name as I was watching games. And he used to be at Belmont. I said, hell, they must have had a hell of a team last year at Belmont. But, it's just harder and harder. And it's also true of the coaches, right? Nico Medved sounds like he's ticketed for Minnesota, and Ben McCollum is now signed on with Iowa. So when your coach does well at that level, obviously, and that's more understandable. That was always the case. And it's not that it's not understandable if the players don't want to take a shot. It's just how the game has changed. And again, for those, 250 to 300 schools, however you want to label mid-major, it's just going to be harder for them to compete in March.
No question. So I want to get to the Maryland part of it, because you and I have often complained about the lack of ability to understand math. And Maryland obviously understood math, or at least Derek Queen understood math on that final play.
Yep. Yeah, I was impressed, that they called timeout with 3.5 seconds left, and they didn't hoist a three at the buzzer. They said, hey, we're going to give the ball to our best player. We're going to have him drive it. Now, it was a very difficult drive. And you and I were both shocked to see Ethan Morton at Colorado State. Neither one of us knew he was there.
Right.
He had played at Purdue
right.
for all those years. I was sort of half paying attention. At one point, I think it was Robbie Hummel said, Ethan Morton. And I'm thinking, why is Robbie Hummel think he's doing a Purdue game? And then I looked up and said, it is. It's Ethan Morton. He said Colorado State. But he couldn't have played Queen any better.
No.
I mean, you got him driving left. He's a right-hander. He's off the wrong foot. And he banks it. And you know what? As soon as he shot it, you could see it was good. I mean, only a great player, like a guy who's going to be in the NBA, could have made that kind of a shot. Having said that, I thought Maryland was outplayed. I thought they were outcoached. I thought Colorado State deserved to win, but you don't always get what you deserve in life. And for the life of me, in the previous possession, Maryland did the two things you can't do. They had a foul to give, which they didn't give, and the only thing you can't do is the heavy favorite there is give up a three to give your chance to lose the game, and they did both.
Yeah, they did both. And I give Colorado State, they ran a great set and got the open three.
They did.
and went for it. I mean, we talk about math, but right, I loved it too, because we talk about math, but you talk about math in the context of who you are. Right? And Colorado State did what they had to do.
Yeah, I think the thought process, and it was a great one, was, look, if we said before the game we got a shot to have a ball in the air to win the game, to go to the 16, we're taking it. If we play 5 more minutes, the more minutes you play against a superior opponent, the less likely you are to win.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I thought it was an awesome, and as you said, they drew up a absolute, if that was the play, and I don't have any reason to doubt that it was, they drew up a perfect play where they basically had everything directed toward their best player on the left side of the court, when the actual idea was to throw it to a shooter over on the right side of the court.
Well, the other part too is that St. John's, which is a brilliantly coached team, as well coached as anybody in the country, but when there are certain elements you struggle at consistently, and for them it's outside shooting, it comes back to bite you at some point. St. John's got bitten over the weekend.
That was one of the stranger games I've seen, Steve, because, as you know, I think Rick Pitino is the best coach of our generation, and he had a bad day, and it wasn't because he wasn't playing R.J. Lewis, and he had a bad day for a number of reasons. Yeah. It's the hardest game to coach when you can see that all of your players, except Zuby Ejiofor, are completely out of it, and they were. Yes. They were committing fouls they shouldn't have been committing. They were making plays they hadn't made all year, and I think the issue with Lewis. Well, obviously 3 for 17 is a problem, but he kept taking them out, and without knowing, but I think I know what he was telling them, Lewis never passed the ball. He kept driving into the middle of the lane where 3 big guys were waiting for him, and he kept trying to force up shots. And I think Rick kept saying, hey, guys are open, pass the ball. And yes, about the three-point shooting, they're not good at it. But I think what happened there was, I mean, they had actually shot better lately. I think the moment got to everybody. You could tell that. And then the coaching mistake I thought Rick made, and again, I was astonished. I'm not going to be able to say the kid's name, the Greek kid who I barely had seen on the floor all year.
Right.
I mean, I got the fact that he wanted to get a shooter out there, but he was you could tell he was really nervous too. And he's a horrible defender. I mean, I actually thought Calipari did a terrible job of not just sending one player, just isoing him time after time, because anytime they did, they scored. So I didn't really understand why he played that many minutes. There were better choices on his bench than the kid from Greece. So I didn't get that. But again, I've seen that game. We've seen that game before, right, where the heavy favorite is just can't make a layup, can't do anything right. The star player's just out of sorts. And, man, I've watched coaches for years struggle to try to coach that game, and it happened to Rick on Saturday. It was just brutal. I felt bad because I think they were as good as anybody. They were playing as well as anybody, but I think the moment got to literally just about every guy on their team except Zuby Ejiofor, the center, and even he missed a huge layup late, which would have tied the game, I think, with like 4 or 5 minutes to go. It's just one of those bizarre games. And And maybe it was the wrong opponent too, Steve. I mean, Arkansas, look, they underachieved for most of the first half of the year because they were all new. They hadn't figured it out. And you watch them play, you go, geez, these guys, they got NBA players over there. They got some really good players on the team. So it wasn't like they lost to some 16 seed that can't play. But having said that, that was brutal to watch St. John just unravel.
Well, in fact, let's remember about Arkansas. I mean, they got 3 transfers in from Kentucky that John brought with him. I mean, last I heard, DJ Wagner's pretty good.
Know some of these players, and certainly the Wagner kid. I mean, you talk about it's Milt Wagner's grandson, DeJuan Wagner's son. I mean, you're talking about serious basketball genes right there, and legendary player from Camden High School. So yeah, I mean, they have good players, and it showed. And ultimately they deserved to win. I mean, they were the better team on Saturday, but for the life of me, I was just baffled by how St. John's played. It was just just played so nervous, Steve. It was just like, wait a second, you've been playing all year long, and now you're nervous. But it does happen in that one and done. We've seen it before.
Through the opening weekend, who looks the part?
Duke looks like the team, right? I mean, I thought Baylor was going to give them a game, right? Because of they have really good players. I mean, Edgecombe might be top 3 player in the draft. Rob Wright, the point guard from Philly, from Newman Goretti, big-time recruit who played with Cooper Flagg at Montverde. I mean, how about that team? Cooper Flagg and Derek Queen and McNeely. I mean, are you serious? That's a high school team? I looked up some of their scores just for kicks. They won their opener last year 120-30. And I think they had 3 games decided by single digits, and I don't know what that was all about. But, I thought Baylor would give them a game, and they really didn't. Look, the ACC clearly was not as good, nearly as good as it has been, the fact that they only got 1 team out of the first round. But I would think they're the one team that you say, look, they have enough good players, and they're playing really well. I thought Florida was playing as well as anybody coming in, and UConn asked them a lot of questions yesterday. And frankly, they looked like St. John's most of the day.
Yes. Yep.
Then the shooter came to the rescue at the end, and Rick should have kept him at St. John's. He looked pretty good. He was with him at Iona. He would have looked pretty good there on Saturday playing for St. John's. And the one team I'm convinced that you're going to have to beat them is Houston. They are just tough. They're beautifully coached. In fact, if you said to me to give me a team, I'd probably take them. Although the committee just did a hideous job with them, putting them in Indianapolis, where they got to play they got to play Purdue for sure, and then possibly Kentucky in what will be 2 road games. I mean, I understood why they had Kentucky and Purdue there. Maybe they hadn't sold the place out. Well, they'll sell it out now, I would think, with those 2 there. But really, if they'd have been thinking realistically, they'd have sent Houston as the 3. They'd have sent them out west, but they didn't do that.
Yeah, I look at Houston and Purdue, and here's the part. All right, Purdue. You and I both know Purdue's not a great defensive team. All right, okay. Houston's a great defensive team. Houston's got enough offense to beat that defense. That's how I look at it. I just think that's the problem for Purdue.
I don't think Purdue's going to be able to score. Look, we all know what their offense is. It's really good. But when you can shut off the point guard, and I think that's what they'll do, their offense falls apart. And I mean, I don't think Lawyer's going to get a shot off against this team.
No.
They just put too much pressure on the ball, and that's the kind of defense that in recent years has been Purdue's undoing. And I actually thought McNeese could have done that, but it looked to me like they spent 2 days celebrating their win in the first round. Which I've seen before in the tournament.
Yes. This is the greatest thing going. Oh, you got to play? We got to play again?
No. What? We won the championship. What's going on? And
he's negotiating with who?
Apparently, he wasn't even negotiating. He hadn't officially signed it. But I actually kind of like that.
Oh, so do I.
He didn't deny it. He just said, I'm going. I'm going to NC State. Good.
That's fine. At least he was open and direct about it. What the heck?
Yeah, what a concept. The truth. What?
We all know that the SEC brought in Mike Tranghese as a consultant, but we also know they poured a lot of money into what's going on. We know Texas Tech has the billionaire brothers. I mean, money is dictated. I mean, this is a follow-the-money sport right now, isn't it?
No question. And look, St. John's has my buddy Mike Rapoli, who's bankrolling the whole show there. For people who don't know who Mike is, he owned Vitamin Water. He invented it, sold it for billions, and he's a gigantic horse owner. He's a major player in horse racing. And he's a St. John's grad from Queens, longtime friend of Rick Pitino's. And I don't know if he's bankrolling all of it, but bankrolling a significant part of it. But yeah, that's what it's come down to. It's a money game, and the SEC obviously has money to play with. But even said that, Steve, I know they had 14 to get 7. Yeah, that's a record. Somebody said, well, if you have 14, you should get 7. Well, teams have had 11, and they got 1 to the 16. Right. So it's really impressive that they were able to get 7 of their teams. And look, it's all power, right? It's the 4 power conferences that have all the teams, except for the Big East, which didn't get anybody through this year. Right. But they've had enough national champions in recent years. They don't have anything to worry about.
No, they don't. Tennessee, Kentucky. The oddity is, I know Tennessee's a 4.5-point favorite.
Yep.
And Kentucky beat them twice this year.
Yeah, it's funny when in watching, and it's really a contrast in styles, right? Tennessee's trying to keep you from scoring, and Kentucky's trying to outscore you. That's why I love Kentucky yesterday against Illinois, because given how Illinois played this year, they were going to try to outshoot Kentucky. That's a mistake. You're not doing that. And you know why they insisted on trying to be the college version of the Celtics with bad 3-point shooting at Illinois. I'll never know. But that's on them. But yeah, that's a fun game. I love how Mark Pope coaches. Yeah, I've known him isn't the right word, but I was around him when he was a player, and he was a great guy to talk to back then. So it's thrilling, I'm sure, for him and all the Kentucky people that are in the 16. But look, Tennessee's going to be a tough out. That is a very tough group. I do hear these things. It's hard to beat teams three times in a year. I think that's nonsense. If you beat the team twice, generally you're probably better than they are. Right. Right. It's tough to beat a team 3 times. Remember Penn State against Illinois 2 years ago in the Big Ten? I don't know if they can beat them 3 times. We said to each other, this is a great draw. They already beat this team twice.
Well, we're in Indianapolis, okay? And Dick and I pretty much think the same way anyway, okay? And we get to the post-game show, we said, look, there's a big reason why Penn State beat this team 3 times. They're better.
Right. They match up well with them. They can't guard Jalen Pickett. And the coach's way Penn State plays drives the other coach crazy. And, yeah, I mean, again, I don't understand the whole 3 times thing. But whatever, it's fine. You'll hear that 100 times this week. And look, maybe Tennessee will get them, but Tennessee's favored because they've done better overall during the season than Kentucky has. But Kentucky got their point. They got their point guard back. He's the critical guy for their team. And they are a fun team to watch. And again, it's none of those guys were in Kentucky last year. I mean, Mark Pope had to start from scratch, and well, he started from scratch. He's in the Sweet 16, and that's the good and bad thing about it. But everybody has hope. It really doesn't matter how you do the previous season. That's almost become irrelevant. Yes. So to see what you do the next season.
Well, DJ, another weekend. And we can check the box. And then we'll go to the next one. How many Final Fours for you? 34?
No, I did 25 Final Fours. I was at 27 because I went to the 2 that were at College Park, the University of Maryland, as a fan way back in the day. But, yeah, I covered 25 for the Daily News. I think 34 is my Kentucky Derby number. I think that's the right one.
Yeah. That's it. 34 is the Kentucky Derby number.
And I got it was awesome. I mean, I saw some phenomenal runs. I was there for the Chris Jenkins shot in 2016. But it's fun now. Some people just, do you miss it? The only thing I miss about it is hanging out with friends and stuff like that. But it's nice when the game ends on Monday night and I hit the clicker and go, bing, and I'm out of there instead of running around trying to file a story in 20 minutes.
Now if we can just get the people working it to know the rules. All right, so.
Well, there's that.
There's some interesting text back and forth between the two of us over the weekend. All right, we'll leave it at that.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
We will talk soon. You're the best.
That's good. All right, I'll talk to you soon.
See you. Dick Jerardi, the best. We will come back. More in a moment. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors here on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Hi, this is Season. For over 100 years, the Purdy Insurance Agency has been protecting families and businesses of the greater Susquehanna Valley and beyond. With the experience of our trained and knowledgeable staff, you can rest assured that your needs will be evaluated and met by some of the industry's best representatives. No matter what your insurance needs are, call Purdy Insurance today at 570-286-5855. Visit our website at purdyinsurance.com or check us out on Facebook to see what we can do for you.
Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and Sunbury Motor Company. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Okay, I know we talked basketball in the opening half hour, but we're going to talk about wrestling here in a moment. Half hour brought to you by Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. Auto, home, life, business, boat, motorcycle, RV. They do a great job of making sure you're fully insured. That's their job. And saving you money, because customer service means everything to them. They're great people. I mean, really great people. They care. All at Purdy Insurance, Market Street in Sunbury. Go to purdyinsurance.com. All right. So, wrestling. Let's get to the checklist. What did we say the other day? We said, number one, win the national championship. And they've done so for the fourth consecutive time and 12 of the last 14. Number two, get as many individual champions as possible. They got 2. We'll get to that in a moment. 3, could they get the 10 All-Americans, which would be only the second time in the history of collegiate wrestling on the Division I level that has happened. 2001 Minnesota, boom, check, they did that. The one element I did not mention in doing the checklist was to break the points record. I didn't mention that the other day. Well, they broke the points record, which they had set last year. And that happens because of the tremendous depth within the program. You don't get 10 All-Americans unless you have great depth. You don't break the points record unless you get great depth. And think about the fact that, like, you suffer a dramatic disappointment. You're a number 1 seed, Lillidahl, okay? You're a Shane Van Ness. You're Levi Haynes, right? Tremendous disappointment at a Bo Bartlett, right? And yet you wrestle back and you get a third. You know what it takes internally to suffer what has to be a devastating defeat because you're trying to win the national title, and to have the guts to wrestle back and get as high a place as you can get? That takes a lot. It takes a lot. So now let's get to the overall part of it. That's the 2 champions. It seems like for some Penn State fans who have been used to seeing 4, 5 atop the podium, that was the disappointment. Now it's time to bring it back to a level of perspective on what we're watching here. And I mention this every year, but I think it's more poignant now because Penn State did not put 4 on the top of the podium. They didn't put 5 on top of the podium. They put 2. I say this over and over again on the show, and Todd, you know exactly what I'm about to say here. It is difficult to win, and if this does not reinforce that to you, nothing will. As fans, you have expectations. I completely understand expectations. I would rather have expectations than have apathy. And Penn State wrestling creates expectations because of greatness. It is hard to win. That's what makes winning so gratifying. So to win another team championship, what a difficult thing to do. To get 10 All-Americans, what a difficult thing to do. To set the points record, what a difficult thing to do. 2 champions, what a difficult thing to do. And Josh Barr gave it everything he could to try and make it 3. But give Josh credit. Remember, Josh kind of wrestled through an injury, and he did a great job, just like Kirkfleet did the best he could, and he got hurt He got actually hurt a week ago. You could see he wasn't quite right, and he gutted it out and got as far as he could. But it's hard to win. That now takes what Carter Starace has done and puts it into a completely different level. Carter Starace, as a freshman, wins the 174-pound title. He then spent the rest of his career as the marked guy. Okay? The rest of his career. Okay? As the marked guy. Okay? Every single person he wrestled for years, he was the guy they had to beat. He was getting everybody's best, and he kept winning and kept winning and kept winning and kept winning and kept winning. Last year, he wrestled through an injury, won. Changed weight classes this year, won. And that kid from Northern Illinois, from Northern Iowa, from that kid, what a great champion he is. He won twice. He and Strachey never wrestled before, and he was really good. I was really impressed by him. That was a gutty win by Carter Starace, getting the takedown late and winning the way he did. But that's what great champions do, and he beat a great champion. Next, Mitchell Messenbrink. Undefeated. Cale Sanderson, that's as hot as I've ever seen him get. When they called Messenbrink for a stall at the end, no offense, what is wrong with you? I'm talking about the officials. What's wrong with you? You called him for a stall? Messenbrink? He's wrestled Caliendo 14 minutes in the last 2 weeks. Tell me if I'm wrong about this, Todd. But I felt like for 12 of the 14 minutes, Caliendo was backing up. Every time I turned around, he was going backwards.
I think that was Cale's point, too. I think he thought the stalling call was supposed to... I think he originally thought the stalling call was on Caliendo.
But he spent 12 of the 14. Every time Mitchell would take a shot, and I understand what Caliendo's doing. Caliendo's trying to keep himself alive, and so he would just... in reflex, back up, get on all fours, and get back up again. Okay? Because he didn't, that was his way of repelling the shot. I got that. But he spent 12 of the 14 minutes going backwards, and you gave him the stall? I mean, are you kidding me? What is wrong with you? That's why I sit back and go, I ask myself with some of these people that are officiating some of these things, what are you watching? You're not watching what the rest of us are watching. This guy is attack. He's at least trying to make it entertaining. The other guy's wrestling not to lose. Right? And I give Caliendo credit. He's been as close to Messenbrink as anybody. Right? That's why Messenbrink I thought was a great moment at the end of the Big Tens. All right? But if they hadn't called the stall, I wouldn't have said anything. But what is wrong with you? Okay? Weren't you watching with the rest of us who were watching? This guy's going forward. This guy's going backwards. Which one's stalling here? Come on. Now, but again, Messenbrink is the perfect example of what I'm talking about here. Messenbrink put together a great 23-24 season, right? And he got to the national final, and he lost. And this year, he goes undefeated. He wins it. It's hard to win, and Messenbrink would be the first to tell you that. Which now brings us to Gable Steveson. There'll be a couple points here about this. I don't want to hear it's the greatest upset ever. It's like, what? What are we doing here? It's the greatest upset ever. Okay, has Steveson ever lost a national final? Yes. Anthony Cassar of Penn State beat him. Okay. How many times was Hendrickson beaten this season? None. He was undefeated. It's like, really? Now, is Steveson the overwhelming favorite to win? No question. No question. But you could tell right away in the first minute, this guy's willing to go toe-to-toe with him. And for the first 6 minutes and 30 seconds, Steveson is winning, but it's done in such a way where, guess what? He's winning, but it's only by arm's length. Which left the door open for what happened. And he went for it. And Steveson lost. Okay? But this goes back to the point I've been making. Who's currently Hendrickson's coach?
Mr. Taylor.
David Taylor. The Magic Man. David Taylor had a great Penn State career. How many times did David Taylor win the title? Twice. Stevenson's won twice. That's another example of it is difficult to win. It's hard. And David Taylor has 2 national titles, an Olympic gold medal, which is what Gable Steveson has, 2 national titles and an Olympic gold medal. They don't have 4. Why? Because it's hard to win. And in this night, Wyatt did enough and had enough confidence in what he was doing to hang tough for the first 6 minutes and 30 seconds and then find that one golden moment. The way Storace did, he found his golden moment to lead the night off. It's hard. It's hard to win. Greatest upset ever? Geez, I don't know. I watched the U.S. Olympic hockey team defeat a team in the Soviet Union that had beaten NHL teams, for goodness sakes. Had beaten that same team 10-3. If Steveson had beaten Wyatt 10-3, because obviously Oklahoma State's not in the Big Ten, but say they were in the Big Ten and he'd beaten him 10-3 2 weeks earlier, I'd be like, whoa. Well, okay, so don't tell me it's the greatest upset ever, please. Okay? And there's no doubt, Steveson has had a legendary career, but he hasn't had the career of Cale Sanderson, didn't have the career of Dan Gable. Okay? He's had a great career, a legendary career. But I'm looking over at the coach of Penn State. Last I checked, he never lost in 4 years. Oh, and he also won an Olympic gold medal. So, it's hard to win. That's what makes Cale's career so remarkable. That's what makes Gable's career so remarkable. That's what makes the greats of all time so remarkable. It's hard to win. You've got to be consistently good every night you go out there. And to win every round like that, that's hard. And Wyatt obviously is a terrific wrestler. to his credit, he went out there, he wrestled smart, he wrestled hard, he kept himself in a position where he could win, and he did. And is it an upset? Of course it's an upset, because Stevenson is such a great reputation. Is it the greatest upset ever, as it was proclaimed the other night? I don't know. I've seen some remarkable things in my lifetime. But I'm not going to make it bigger than it was.
I was going to say, if we're just talking wrestling, I think Rulon Gardner has a little bit of a...
Rulon Gardner beating Carillon is the greatest wrestling upset I've ever seen. Carillon hadn't lost in 14 years. Yeah. I mean, literally, had not lost in 14 years. Carillon had not lost in 14 years. And that's not... I'm not just making up a number. I know that's the number. Yeah, I mean that's, you know what I mean, that's, you're exactly right. Rulon Gardner is the example.
Though that look on old Gable's face might be a meme for a while.
Hey, he couldn't believe it.
I had the same look on my face.
No, I didn't have it on mine. I kind of looked and went, okay, that was pretty good. On a night that had, I only watched 4 matches all night. No offense, I didn't bother with the other ones. I watched Carter, I watched Mitch, I watched Josh, and I watched the heavyweight one. That was it. The other ones, I couldn't tell you in a million years who won. Didn't watch.
I forgot to flip up for Josh. I only did 3.
Oh, really? No, I definitely watched Josh. I mean, Penn State guys wrestling, I'm watching. All right. Other guys are what? Other people are? No. Sorry. It's just, I could care less if the Illinois guy wins or the Oklahoma State guy wins. I'm like, whatever. Right? One of Penn State's guys wrestling, I'm all over it. Okay? Just like when hockey, you know how much I love hockey. But the only NCAA tournament hockey I'm going to watch is when Penn State plays Maine. Okay? Coming up this week. I mean, you think I'm going to sit there and watch Quinnipiac play whomever? No. It's like I watched a little bit of Penn State, Ohio State lacrosse last night for a few minutes, and I watched a little bit of Penn State women's lacrosse with Oregon for a few minutes. Why? Because Penn State was playing. It's like I see those guys in lacrosse all the time, right? I see them all the time. All right, because they'll be going over to practice. Sometimes I'll just stand outside the gate and watch practice, whatever, right? But if Michigan's playing Ohio State in lacrosse, do you think I'm watching? Please.
Not with your Go Sparty shirt on?
No, I'm not going to do that. No. But I'm just like, I think I speak for most people. I think it's how most people watch it. Unless you're just a die-hard, die-in-the-wool, right? See, that's the difference between football and probably men's basketball and so forth. You'll watch other games. But I think for most people, when it comes to, like, they'll watch their team. And that's what I do. I watch my teams.
I got really into BYU and Wisconsin. That's my excuse for forgetting about the 197 match.
Oh, no, absolutely. And look, and Wisconsin draws up a play at the end where Tanjay's got it, and with 37 points, he's got to be the guy handling the ball. I thought when he got downhill and he was running the lane line, you could tell he was getting into a bad spot. I thought he was going to pitch it back to Blackwell. I really did. And he didn't. He took the shot, and by the way, well defended. There's no foul on that play. And that was a really good game. BYU's going to play Alabama. First team to 100 wins that game. And I'm not exaggerating.
No.
I'm not exaggerating. If the first team to 100 in the BYU-Alabama game wins. Coaching hires. Sean Miller leaves Xavier, goes to Texas. Nico Medved leaves Colorado State. What did we tell you 2 weeks ago when Ben Johnson was fired? Who did we say they were going to go with?
Nico?
Yep. Okay. Iowa. Fran McCaffrey left. Who did we say they were going to go with? Ben McCollum from Drake, right? So, I mean, there's certain things that just line up right that you can tell right away how it's going to go. Medved, of course, was a part of the Minnesota program. I think 97 was his last year there. McCollum, of course, look, Division II championships. Look, that's what Bo Ryan did at Wisconsin, you know. Where was Bo? Whitewater? No, Stevens Point. I want to say Bo was at Stevens Point. And then took the Wisconsin job. Like, okay, Bo Ryan, okay. You know, Chester's own. And, yeah. But Dick's absolutely right. Why do you see the cream rise to the top and it's all big names? Because the transfer portal has created a drain of, I recruited you, nobody else wanted you, darn, you turned out to be pretty good, and I lost you. Welcome to the world of mid-majors. Look at all the guys over the years Bucknell's lost. Okay? Andrew Funk. Now, again, Andrew was in a spot where Bucknell doesn't have, only has limited graduate programs.
Yeah, and I don't think the Patriot League allows you a fifth year.
Fifth year. So Andrew comes here and is a huge reason why Penn State wins. Nate Sestina going to Kentucky. I mean, just some of the examples of guys that were really good players that ended up someplace else because they couldn't take the extra year here. Hey, that is the way the sport is right now. That's the way the sport is right now.
Bo Ryan's was Wisconsin Plateville.
Okay.
And then Milwaukee, then Wisconsin.
Yeah, Platteville, then he went to Milwaukee, and then was it Milwaukee 2 years? I think.
Yep, 99 and 2001.
Yep, and Platteville, he won, like, I don't know, 4 or 5 national titles? Something like that. But, you know, so if you're looking at McCollum, great success, Division II, goes to Drake. Like Bo, 1 year. Now, Bo was 2 years, but 1 year, and then moves up. So we'll see. Now he has issues. Owen Freeman's in the transfer portal. Brock Harding's in the transfer portal. Josh Dix is in the transfer portal.
Well, they all play a game that he doesn't play. I was going to say there's not two different types of or style of play coaches than him and Fran.
True. But I don't doubt that he can win like this. The question is going to be, can they form a roster to then play the way he wants to play in a short period of time? Now, this is Iowa basketball. They're good. Their resources are good, but it's not Kentucky type of resources where Mark Pope can walk in and assemble a roster like he's assembled. Now, you get, because a guy like Amari Williams, for example, leaves Drexel, goes over to Kentucky. He didn't do it for $1.95.
Some free bluegrass.
I think you need to think bigger. I got this email from this talk show. Just wanted to remind you, you're scheduled to be on our show this Thursday at 6:45. I'm thinking to myself, I'm glad you reminded me because I forgot. I was like, I don't know. I got 1,000 of these things. It's like, I'm glad you reminded me. Because I'd be like, they're not calling me. I have to call them. So I really have to be on my game to make sure that I got it.